Jessi Bixler is the author of The Story We Share, a multi-perspective memoir that explores the unseen weight people carry and the power of showing up for one another. Jessi serves as an immediate past board chair for MOCSA and is a speaker who bridges the gap between personal resilience and leadership. She is also the founder of Bixler Consulting, where she helps businesses grow through marketing strategy and AI-powered sales systems. With over a decade of experience working with companies nationwide, she specializes in building revenue-focused marketing that drives results. Her work sits at the intersection of business, storytelling, and impact, helping people and organizations move forward with clarity and purpose. Welcome to the podcast, Jessi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So you have 3 different titles. You're an author, you're a speaker, you're a CMO. Give me the honest version of what your week looks like right now.
So, in addition to those things, I'm also a mom and a wife. So just add that on
Add
top
it
of it,
on.
right? Right.
Yes.
So, no week is typically the same. So I kind of I hate to say I fly by the seat of my pants. I try to have some tasks repeated in my calendar, but oftentimes, if I'm being completely honest, those might get pushed to the next day. So generally, I try to mix a little bit of everything, but honestly, each week's a little bit different, and that might be more heavy on the story we share and promotion and advocacy for that. Sometimes it might be a little bit more heavy on Bixler Consulting. We're continually innovating on that side with the insurgence of AI. So just kind of trying to lead or be led appropriately, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So tell me a little bit more about how your agency is different and what you're doing with AI and kind of where you're at on the Bixler Consulting side of things.
Sure. So we just actually kind of restructured Bixler Consulting. So initially, about 8 years ago, when I started Bixler Consulting, it was really more strictly on the digital marketing side. And it grew kind of organically to just do websites for startup practices and specifically practices in the dermatology space. And that was really kind of a God thing, how it grew organically like that. I never would have picked that as a niche, but I'm so
Huh.
thankful for that. And so just recently, my husband started working with me on the Bixler Consulting side, and his background is sales. So he's been doing sales for over 20 years. And we have kind of been talking about the idea of AI and how does that work and kind of some
Mm.
lead recovery mechanisms. So it's actually a new service offering, and we kind of decided to restructure Bixler Consulting. So it is part marketing, and we still have that as the core foundation of our work, but we are tapping into some AI functionality and just really making sure we have a handle on kind of the AIO. So, artificial optimization along with SEO, and just kind of seeing how those play together and how we can use those services in conjunction with marketing to tap into the data and really help businesses from the sales side. So that's kind of the long-winded answer.
No, that makes sense though. And what industries are you mostly focused on?
So from the AI side, from like the lead generation and lead recovery, we're really focusing more on kind of like, I'll say the blue collar side. So a lot of home builders, HVAC system, garage door folks. So really the people that are having issues or have a lot of customers where they're performing various services in that regard.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. Awesome. So the book side in your authoring career, you wrote a book called The Story We Share. And how long was that in the works and why did you write it? That's, we're kind of opening up a big can of worms, I think, but I'm excited to hear about
Yes.
this.
Yeah. I would like to say that it's been a long time in the making. So, yeah, so the book's called The Story We Share, How One Sexual Assault Rippled Through a Family and Their Fight for Healing. So, it's really a memoir based on the sexual assault that I experienced about 12 years ago. So, it has kind of been festering, I'll say, since shortly after that time. And I really wasn't kicked into gear until about just over 2 years ago. So November
Hmm.
2024, November is the anniversary time. And I was talking with my therapist who was unfortunately in the process of dying. And she was talking about her idea to write a book about her experiences. And it was definitely kind of a God moment. Like I felt a little nudge, I felt a little tickle. And that was the first time that I thought, maybe this is something worth pursuing. And I always, before that, I felt like I just wanted to be led by the Holy Spirit. And my thought process was, maybe this is something that I want to do, but that He is not directing me to do. So I just wanted to be
Mhm.
patient and wait for that time. And so that was the first time I thought, okay, maybe this is His nudge. So I really just started first with talking to a writer friend of mine and trying to understand the process, and really just taking the next step and the next step and the next step, writing the outline, working with her directly. And it kind of just unfolded naturally. So the whole process took about a year from having that first meeting with my writer friend and then actually releasing it. So the book was released in November of 2025, on purpose with the anniversary. So
Mm.
not quite 6 months, but it's
Yeah.
definitely been a whirlwind.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So, when we were prepping for this episode, you said that the thing you're most proud of wasn't finishing the book, it was telling it in a way that it needed to be told, which meant including the perspectives of people who walked through this experience with you. That's a big decision that you made in the way that you wrote it. So, what made you approach it in that way instead of something else?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of books that will use other people's perspectives, but they are quoted by the author. And I think this book is a little bit different in that they're the exact words of the people that I interviewed,
Wow.
including my husband, my parents, friends, my brother. So, and the chapters are structured so that they're those that each chapter is their chapter. And I feel like that was important because I wanted to capture their words exactly. I wanted to gather all of their emotion. Some chapters are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit longer. That's very reflective of each individual. And I think a lot of times when people experience trauma, the focus is placed on the trauma survivor so much because they are in crisis. And sometimes that's
Mhm.
necessary. But oftentimes the secondary survivor is overlooked.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. So how did they feel about having their perspective change or perspective as part of the book? Like were some of them like, "No, I don't want to do this?" How did you manage that?
So nobody said no. I think
Nice.
everybody, I, I think, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they found it to be a little healing too, because honestly, it was the first time that we were able to have we never had those conversations before. Like I
Mhm.
never asked them how they felt when this happened or what was going through their mind. And often I found that a lot of times they weren't having those conversations with anybody else. So they were kind of suffering in silence. So I felt
Yeah.
really thankful that um, maybe I was a little part of an opportunity for them to share what they went through. And so I think it was healing for our relationships. And I think it was also helpful, like I said, helpful for them to be able to get it out. And while I think my story certainly resonates, and that's kind of the focal point, I would say that what I get the most comments and feedback about is hearing from those other, and hearing from the secondary survivors, and that really resonates with people.
Yeah, that's incredible. How did you lean on the Holy Spirit to kind of guide you through the book writing, guide you through like what you needed or what he wanted? It's probably more of what he wanted you to write. And knowing that this book is going to impact others, what was that daily or weekly practice? What did that look like as you kind of surrendered everything to him?
That's a great question. Um, I don't know that I know the exact way to answer that, except for that I really just took it one day at a time. It was a
Mm,
very prayerful process. It wasn't, thinking about like start to finish, it was a year. Going through it, it didn't feel, it it felt like a much longer process. So I felt like there were times where maybe things weren't moving. I'm a doer. I'm a checklist,
Hmm.
check it off, move along to the next thing. So oftentimes, because I worked with a ghostwriter, oftentimes things weren't moving at the pace that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So those were definitely times that I had to lean into the Holy Spirit, and I felt Him, kind of washing patience over me, and things will happen when they happen. And there's a reason why I needed to take things a little bit slower or ask Chad, which is my husband, to review certain things. So I really just took it one day at a time. And I think it's unique too because the book, I think it's clear, and it kind of depicts, not from the beginning, but it definitely, we talk about how um, shortly after really not having a relationship with the Lord, when the incident took place, but how we were kind of through that incident led to the Lord, and
Mm.
thankfully brought through that. And so I think that has been helpful too in talking to people and working through anger, especially, like the common question is like, why does God let bad things happen to good
Hmm.
people?
Hmm.
And so working through that and talking to people has been helpful too.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. Hey, I want to pause here for just a second. If what you're hearing today is hitting close to home, if you're recognizing your business in these patterns, I want you to know that it's not a coincidence. This is exactly the work I do with founders. I work with business owners who know something needs to change but haven't had the right person in their corner to help them build it. If that sounds like where you are, there's an inquiry form linked in the show notes. It takes about 3 minutes. Tell me where you are, what's not working, and what you're trying to build, and we'll find time to talk. Okay, let's keep going. So we're kind of going to switch gears to just your operational reality today.
Hmm.
So I think you said Bixler Consulting has been around for 8 years now. Is that right?
That's correct.
So how obviously your business is to a point where you've got a good amount of stability where you can say, I can run with this other project, this new business, this new venture, and see what happens. So what do you have to do to build things to get yourself to that point?
Yes. So when I started Bixler Consulting, I think it was a little bit foreign at that time, in my opinion, to say, I never want to have direct employees. That's, I think a lot of business people would say that feels very limiting. Like, you have to have employees. If you want to grow, you have to have a staff. And I knew, like we talked about at the beginning, the many hats that we wear.
Mhm.
I knew that wouldn't be feasible. I didn't want that kind of stress. I had done the corporate thing, trying to climb the corporate ladder, and for me, I knew the effect it had on my family. So I decided early on that I didn't want to have full-time employees. I wanted to work with other entrepreneurs, other freelancers. Um, I wanted to help their businesses grow. So I
Mhm.
set up that infrastructure kind of from the beginning, and I just searched for good people to work with, website builders, designers, writers, content producers, and all of them are building their own business. And so I spent a lot of time building relationships and finding people that I could trust and work with and rely on, again, doing the same thing. And so that allowed me to, it took a number of years, but I think building that allowed me to have trust to hand it off. So I spent years becoming the expert in the, dermatology website space. And so a lot of times
Yeah.
people that come to me, they come for that expertise. So I need to make
Mhm.
sure that when I'm asking a designer to design on that project, that they have that same expertise, because that's my name still tied to it. So
Yeah.
I would say that is like finding the good people, the contractors, and that infrastructure, so I can pass that off and really not have to worry about it.
Yeah. What's been the best way to meet those people? Like, has
Mm,
it been word of mouth? What is the best way to kind of find those unicorns that you need that you can call on?
yes. I think for me, a couple of the contractors that I work with have been on LinkedIn, so I'm
Oh,
thankful for
nice.
that. But then a lot of them are local people in Kansas City from my previous life, and so working,
Nice.
with other companies and other agencies, and some of the contractors that I work with, I've known for, almost 2 decades, who have kind of gone off on different paths, and we've just stayed in contact. So it's a lot of just relationship building, and a lot of the people, honestly, that I've worked with, that I've enjoyed working with, have gone off to do their own thing. And now it's less foreign than it was 8 years
Mhm.
ago to have people, that are kind of doing the contractor freelance
Yeah.
route.
Yeah, I find it's crazy the amount of people now that are like, I just want a contract. I don't want to be stuck in a W-2 role.
Yeah.
It's amazing the shift that I've seen.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hard. And you can
Mhm.
attest to this too, especially with your role. Like it is certainly not for the faint of heart, and
No.
it's not easy. And sometimes I think, you know, for me, I think, like, would I do it all again? And I would say yes, but I'm also 8 years removed, and you could
Yeah.
probably, talk about your side too, but it's tough. And, you're kind of having to learn everything as you go, and hopefully you have some good mentors along the way. But I would say, don't assume that it's going to be easy and that
Mhm.
things are just going to fall into your lap.
Yeah, I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I was naive in the ways that I was
Hmm.
because I wouldn't have probably made the leap.
Right. Yeah, that's what it
I
is. It's a
oh,
big leap, right?
yeah. Yeah. I now, every day I kind of look and I'm like, I have to continue to trust the Lord that he has this because I so many times fall into the trap of thinking if it's all gone tomorrow. It's just a continual it's just also and it's not founded on anything legitimate, that fear, because if
Hmm.
I look at the trajectory of my last 2.5 years, everything's telling me it's going to continue, right? But there's
Right.
still that itching fear of this doesn't feel as secure, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said, and maybe I'll ask you a question too, but something that you said triggered something in my head, which is, like one of my mottos, and I kind of touched on it earlier. But do you feel like as your journey has gone, have you continued with your journey professionally, have you found yourself and your relationship with the Lord, like just putting yourself out there? Like there's an element of just either taking the next step, or just saying, like, I'll give it a shot, or just, making yourself be open. Like, you and I didn't know each other until this call too. And so I was like,
Yeah.
there's a reason that she's showing up here. I think I'm going to reach out to her, which also is still kind of scary. Do you feel like you
Yeah.
have a similar thought process there?
Yeah, I feel like in the last few years, have been exposed in more ways than I imagined, or just feeling like I am, I am opening myself up to a lot of potential hurt, just
Oh,
fear,
yeah.
a lot of things that
Hmm.
if I was not running my own business, I wouldn't be opening up that can of worms.
Right.
So, yeah, without a doubt, I have also had to get really just really number one, figure out how to um trust the Lord and what he is saying to me, and like discerning, is this from me and something I want to do? Is this from him? Is this what he wants me to do? And trying to for me, I get on certain kicks and I'm like, I'm going all out on this, but like it can also be a very personal from him. It can just be something that I'm like obsessed about in the moment. And so it's really hard for me to just like pump the brakes and be like, hold up, is this something he wants for me or not? Because I could be going down the path that's completely wrong or a complete waste of time. If he's cracked that door open, is that door cracked open because of him or is it because of me? Like
Right.
it is, I've exposed myself in a way I've never exposed myself, it feels like some days.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think that's what's hard, and I experienced that too, is because it's like what the Lord wants, and sometimes like the rest and the pause and the pump the brakes, like you're talking about, is completely counter to what our culture says, which is like,
Yeah.
go, go, go. I can sleep when I'm dead, they're like all of
Hmm.
these kind of things, and you constantly have to be going, and there's no work-life balance. And so I feel like as a strong Christian woman, it's like, sometimes if you don't have a really good handle on where your direction is coming from, I think that's where we get into trouble.
Yep. I got into that sort of trouble trying to climb the corporate ladder, and I
Yes.
excuse me, kept coming back to the fact that like I am never going to be happy in this situation. Like I just continually was like I'm not going to be happy until I can start my own business and until I can call the shots myself.
Yeah.
Um it was this repeating door that finally I knew someday this was where I was going to be. I didn't realize it would happen when it did. Um, couldn't make that story up, myself, but yeah, it did happen. So tell me then how you're balancing making decisions of how much time you're spending on your publishing side of your business, how much you're spending in the consulting work. Like, how are you discerning where to spend your time and your resources?
I'm not. um,
So hard.
I know I don't know that I'm doing a good job at it. I think because I'm a doer, that part's really hard for me.
Yeah.
And so the phase of life that I'm trying to be in right now is to just be led. And it makes me feel really like antsy saying that because that feels so passive. But I really am, I would say, to give you a concrete answer, I would say the majority of my time is spent on the publishing side, the book, the advocacy, the speaking, because I still feel kind of like you were saying, like the itch and the nod from the Holy Spirit. I still feel like there's something there. I still feel the weight, not like
Mhm.
a heavy weight on my shoulder, but I feel like the importance of it. And so I'm kind of using that as what's driving me. So as long as I'm still feeling that pull, that nudge, then I'm going to lean into that. And there's times, where I'm like, I'll get pulled back to the consulting side, the marketing side,
Yeah.
and I'll lean into that. But I'm also like, I'm not doing a lot of outreach and like, marketing. But I also feel like that's where my husband is involved now. And so he has the
Mm.
capacity to do that. So he's taking a lot more of that on, which I'm really thankful for. So again, long answer, I'm not doing a very good job at it, but I'm just kind of trying to, lean in where it feels like I'm being pulled.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. So you said when we were prepping that people are caring a lot more than we can generally see, and that if leaders had more awareness of that, it would likely change how they show up. Can you tell me more about what you mean about that?
I think when I'm talking about leaders caring and showing up, I think a lot of it is patience. So I think a lot of times,
Mm.
and I can speak directly as like a survivor perspective, is um, when you're navigating trauma or things at home, things that maybe you're not comfortable talking about or that you can't talk about, there's a lot of trust and safety that's at stake. So I
Mhm.
know for me, I wasn't ready. I went back to work 2 days after this happened. And so I completely closed in, but I luckily had a couple people that I felt that I trusted and that were my safe space. So I was able to talk to them and kind of explain what was going on. But I think as leaders, it's important to have that empathy and maybe look for signs. So if you have someone that is generally outgoing and talkative and they're all of a sudden closed in or quick to fly off the handle, it's probably maybe nothing that you said, but maybe it's time to pause and take a
Mhm.
step back, breathe, give them some time. A big thing after you've experienced trauma or you're currently in crisis is like for me it was a loss of control. So a rape or
Mm.
sexual assault, the control is taken away from you. So as a leader, if you can pause, show empathy, and be that safe space and say like, "Hey, you're. It feels like maybe you're going through something. I want to give you space, but I want you to know that I'm here for you." And so, giving them control and the decision to come talk to you. So those are maybe like some things that I think could be helpful in a leadership situation.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So, what's the next right step for you that you feel like, what does the next 30 days maybe look like as you approach spreading the word about your book. Not obviously jumping completely out of Bixler Consulting, but what's the next main thing that you're focused on?
Well, if I can be completely honest, the next main thing is going on spring break next week with my kids and my
Yay!
family. And
That's perfect.
so it's funny because, well, I don't know, ironic, whatever word you want to use. We are going to the beach, and the cover of my book is it is a beach scene with like the ocean. And in the book, I talk about my happy place. And so that's my happy
Mm,
place. So
awesome.
I've been spending a lot of mental space preparing to not have any mental space when we go.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good.
that's been my focus lately, and I really want to do that because when I come back, I want to hit the ground running, and and again, kind of like the theme of our talk is do more of the advocacy. I did some training with some police cadets in Warrensburg, Missouri last week, so I'd love to
Oh,
do
wow.
more of that. I think just being able to share my story, I think in whatever capacity, again, the Lord is leading. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really what my next 30 days looks like is I feel more led to that aspect of our businesses. And I trust my husband to keep things running for us.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. I think it sounds like a wonderful plan. And I think the training where your heart is, it's going to continue, the Lord will continue to lead you exactly where you need to be. So it sounds like, you're taking it one day at a time, holding it all with an open hand of, what do you have for me this week? And I think
Yes.
it's going to continue to go really well. So where can people find the book and follow you and what you're building?
Yep. So you can find the book directly on our website, which is thestoryweshare.com. You can also find it on Amazon. Our website, we just started a blog, so we'll have some just some different kind of thought-provoking things. You know, you talked about the intersection of leadership and life, so we'll have some more content there for people that are interested.
Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you for spending your day with me, Jessi. I really appreciate it. It has been a joy to hear your story and to see just how you're building, how you're holding two different things at once, and trying to steward both really well. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for creating a space and a dialogue for individuals to, bridge the gap between a walk with the Lord and business and life. So I appreciate the platform that you've built too.
It's my pleasure. It's so fun. Every single week, I get to hear the coolest stories that are just continuing to fill my cup and help keeps me going. So I'm hopeful that for my listeners, it does the same, and I think it will. So thanks, Jessi.
Thank you.